Morning, guys. Welcome back to the Cycle Sunday podcast. You are in the shop, mate.
I have finally, and I'm really excited to hear what people have got to say about the audio. I I've finally spent the hours setting up the podcast system.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that the sound is, from our side, the best yet.
It sounds pretty good from here, to be honest, mate. I mean, you have got the poshest podcast setup in the world. I just use my Mac and this old microphone that I've had for voiceover work for ages. But no, but the difference is you have got the ability to have guests, and I kind of don't really.
No, that's the point. And the thing was with the other system that I was using over the last few weeks. I don't have the ability to be able to bring Natalie on or bring Richard on. But at the same token, the audio quality, and it's nothing to do with the system, it was all to do with the operator not spending enough time on the setup.
Yeah.
So over the course of last night, I was spending about 3.5 to 4 hours actually watching YouTube tutorials from Rode and from really good podcasters on how to set up all of the filters, the compressors, the de-essers, and ultimately we had this horrendous hiss that was coming through the headphones and through the audio last week, where I then had to abandon ship and go back to the flat, and it was horrendous. And today I found out that it was a set of fans above the main entrance doors that's about 50 meters away. And once you'd set the levels up, that's not, because one of the biggest problems that folk had on the previous times that we've been using this system was the audio was chopping in and chopping out. And there was that particular one with Richard, if you remember.
Yeah.
Where you could hear him, then you couldn't hear him, then you could, and people didn't like that at all. And it was just the levels of the microphones. But the problem is that the moment you set the levels, so it's sounding great as it is now, it picks everything up. It is so sensitive, so you've got to make sure that everything is switched off and locked down.
Yeah. So
anyway, so we hope everybody likes it.
So Paul will sound great. He'll still talk shite, but he sounds good. Well, seeing as you're drinking, I just need to. So my advent calendar today is a tribute extra strong pale ale at 6.8%.
What?
Yeah, I know. Hold on. So while I open this one, so I've had some level problems as well, completely not to do with Cycle Sunday, but I went to an electric car range day with BMW on Monday. And I got to drive the new i4 M50, which is the first all-electric M car, which was epic, by the way. And I also got to drive the iX, which is the fugly-looking big SUV thing that is ugly, but oh my god, so good. But unfortunately, I messed up my microphone. I messed up the dB setting on the mic, and the audio's awful. So I've spent all day trying to fix that. Anyway, shall we talk about Cycle Sunday?
Let's talk about Cycle Sunday. Welcome, everybody.
Yay. Now, heads up, people. This is the last podcast of 2021.
Boo.
Boo. And we're going to do a couple of things. If you've watched tonight's episode of Cycle Sunday, we kind of had a bit of a look back at... he's got some sad music, some violins. We did take a look back at the year. I mean, it's been an amazing year of Cycle Sunday. So we're going to have a bit of a chat about that. But there's also a bit of hangover from the last podcast because we kind of didn't get through all the things we wanted to get through, and we still think there's some valid stuff to talk about. So,
indeed,
which was all about modifying bikes. But before we dive into that, I wanted to just pick up on a couple of comments from the previous week's episode, both the Cycle Sunday video and also the podcast, which was about my Trek Rail.
Mm-hmm.
And we talked quite a lot about in last week's podcast about the work that I'd done on the rail. But I've had a few comments about how much the bike cost. And Two veins really. One, I think it's just how much £5,000 for a bike is ridiculous. And then the other one is was almost a dig at me for kind of because we started to talk about how much things cost.
Mm.
People are thinking for in some way I'm being the big I am and look at me and so on, and it could not be further from the truth. The interesting thing is, I think if we hadn't talked about how much things cost, and we did debate whether we should do that, by the way,
Yeah.
then people would have asked the questions anyway. So we
Yeah.
thought we'd just be open and upfront and honest, and you know. So let's just talk about the cost of bikes, and actually this could be a conversation we would have if we were doing a car podcast, because the cost of cars today. I've just picked up my Hendy car, a RAV4, and it's £46,000, and I've
Yeah.
had comments on that. How much? I think it's just safe to say everything's expensive at the moment.
Well, it's not at the moment. Just things have moved on. So, what you've got to bear in mind is, let's take the Toyota RAV4. Now, when the Toyota RAV4 was first launched,
Mm.
which, if I remember correctly, was around 96,
I was going to say
97.
96, 97 because
Yeah,
my mate's girlfriend's mum got one.
yes. So that's when I first got into the motor trade
Yeah.
at that point. So 96, 97, which was on a P reg.
Paul, get
Yes.
out more.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. So that was on a P reg. Yeah. So, sorry, everybody. And that car at the time will have been around 8 to 9 thousand quid
Yeah.
in that region.
How
Probably,
much?
yeah, probably 8 to 9 thousand quid, right? Because I was working for Vauxhall at the time, and we were selling things like the Zafira and that sort of stuff, which was around 14 to 16 thousand quid. Now, if you walked into a Vauxhall shop today and bought a brand new Zafira, it would probably be about 25 to 30 thousand quid,
Yeah, yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But what you also have to bear in mind is, if you got into a 1996 RAV4, the fit, finish, build quality and the plastics used and the interior that's used and the way it felt tinny and the buttons and all of that sort of stuff and the tech on it,
Yeah.
you will probably find that the today's Dacia Duster will be a superior vehicle to that 1996 RAV4.
Yeah.
So the Toyota RAV4, that is a premium company, over those years have moved on,
Yeah.
right? So what you've got to bear in mind is, when we get the comments of, a Halford's bike, for example, is 150 to 350 quid. Yes, because a 1980s Trek mountain bike will have also been around that sort of price at that point. And the technology that Halfords or Carrera or something is using on their bikes will be the same sort of quality of maybe a mountain bike from around 7 to 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So when you are buying anything from what we would classify as a premium manufacturer, you are buying today's technology. So Trek, Giant, Specialized, Cannondale, all of these main manufacturers, they are the research and development team that basically produce all the latest geometries, all the latest materials, all the latest technology on these bikes, and use premium components that then, once Trek, for example, say in maybe 5, 6 years' time, right, technology's moved on again. And what you'll find is your next tier of bikes down will start utilizing that technology and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
So that's just how it works.
Yeah.
An iPhone, today's iPhone is, it's an industry leading product that probably today's less expensive phone is probably utilizing some of the hangover technology from about 2 to 3 variants ago.
Yeah.
And that's how it works.
Yeah, and there's a few things here because I try not to get riled by comments, and it didn't rile me. That's the wrong word, but ultimately, yes, you can go and buy a bike from Halfords. Other retailers are available
Yep.
for £2, £3, £4, £500,
Yep.
and it's a bike. And you pedal it, and it goes along, and it will get you from A to B. And actually, if you want to cycle to the train station in the morning, then knock yourself out. Brilliant. Okay. And actually, if you're just wanting to get into cycling to start with, as long as you buy the right size frame,
Mhm.
then great. It's a great entry level product into cycling because you don't know. Just like I did when I bought my Giant, yeah, I spent a little bit more than that, but I didn't know if I was going to like it or not. So if you're going to try a new sport, let's say cycling, then you don't go out and buy the very best and the very latest thing. You buy a cheaper one, or you go on eBay or Facebook Marketplace and you buy a second hand bike. And I think all the things that we've said this year is as long as you buy the right size bike,
Yep.
doesn't really matter.
No.
Okay.
No.
But, and this is the but, once you like something, then all sports and all activities, when you want to start buying quality, the price goes up. And I'll give you a couple of examples. I'm a golfer. I play golf. I haven't played golf much this year at all because I've had a problem with one of my hands, actually.
Right.
But, I started to play golf, and my dad got me a really nice, cheap kind of Ping copies golf clubs. They weren't very expensive at all, and I played golf with those for 16 years. Okay, and they were fine, and I got off single figures with those golf clubs.
Mm.
So and then I thought, do you know what? I'm going to buy a nicer set of golf clubs, and I went and bought secondhand. I bought another set of golf clubs, but I know someone who is he plays off scratch and he's a pro and so on. And he's like, right, I know someone at Ping. We're going to go and get you a set of golf clubs made. And just like I had the bike fitted to me, the
Mm.
same thing with golf. You can go to any of the big brands, Ping, TaylorMade, whatever, and they will fit you a set of clubs to your site at height and stance and swing and everything. But it's going to cost you.
Yeah.
When I competed at horse riding, you can buy a saddle for 300 quid, or you can buy a really nice one for 4,000 quid.
Yeah.
And there's a big difference in what the quality's like. The same with boots, the same with a hat, the same with anything. The only difference, I was thinking about this in the car today, is the actual horse itself. Right?
Okay.
So I've just spent like £5,000 on a mountain bike, and that bike is not going to go up in value. It's going to kind of, if anything, it's going to go down in value as it gets used. When we bought our horse, we bought him quite young, and he wasn't. Horse is a bit like a dog with a pedigree. You can get horses with what's called papers, so they're like a pedigree horse.
Mm.
And he didn't have papers because of his parentage wasn't too sure and stuff. Anyway, so he was quite cheap. It was £3,500. Okay. And then we started training him and eventing him, and he turned out to be very, very good. And I evented him at a reasonable level. And at one point, he was worth about 20,000 quid
Okay.
because he got and so it's the only thing I've ever bought that's actually, the more I've used it, it's gone up in value by a lot because he was a really good eventer. And then one day he pulled a muscle in his or a ligament in his leg, and he was worth nothing.
Right.
Because he couldn't do it. So, but all these sports. So, yes, I've spent £5,000 on a bike, but this is a considered purchase. I'm. Don't get me wrong. I am very, very fortunate to be in a financial position to spend that kind of money, and then to spend the money on the wheels and the other things that I've done. But it's my passion. It's what I do. It keeps me fit, and I think it's a great way of investing the money that I've worked hard for.
Yep.
Because at the end of the day, it's going to keep me fit. So
Yes.
I don't know if we've answered or covered that off, but I appreciate these things aren't cheap. The last point I think we made at the end of the last podcast, actually, and that is, yes, you can get cheaper e-bikes. Yes, you can get cheaper road bikes, cheaper mountain bikes, but they're kind of, just be wary that they're cheaper for a reason. They won't have the same quality carbon fiber in the frame, or the same craftsmanship to make them,
Mm.
or the same componentry on them. I think people couldn't get their hands around the fact that we spent $5 grand on a bike that was the entry level bike.
And don't forget, it was the entry level of the carbon range.
Yeah, exactly. We didn't say that, I suppose.
No,
Yeah.
so yeah, no, that's fair. Fair to say. So number one, Trek, they build bikes, and we have them, and I'm physically looking around at them just now. Right next to me, just to my right hand side, we've got a whole line of Trek Marlin entry level mountain bikes,
Yep.
aluminium frames, relatively basic components fitted. And the Marlin 4 is 450 quid.
Rock and roll.
So Criterium Cycles physically stock and sell a lot of bikes at 450, 500, 600, £1,000.
Yep.
We also sell a lot of bikes at 6, 7, 8, 9, £10,000. And the customer who spends £450 is as cherished to us as the person who spends £10,000,
Yep.
because we have so many different types of customers. We've got customers who own £10,000 bikes who also own 400 quid bikes, because they just
Yeah.
use that to go to the station and lock it up for the day. And if it's there when they get back, bonus, right? If it isn't, they hail a cab, phone us up and buy another one. So but you've got to bear in mind that, again, similar to the car analogy, the handlebars that are fitted to Peter's Ultra are £200 more in value than a Marlin 4 total bike. You know, does that make the Marlin 4 rubbish or the handlebars expensive? Well, neither. The Marlin 4 is 450 quid's worth of bike. The handlebar and stem combination is 650 quid's worth of handlebar and stem combination.
Yeah. Yeah.
The end.
Yeah. Amen. Amen to that, mate. And you know, I mean, if we think back, I mean, this is quite a nice segue into looking back at the year. Actually, is that when we talked about doing Cycle Sunday way back in 2020, um, we wanted to kind of talk about all the really cool engineering and technology and stuff in bikes. We
Indeed.
wanted to help people understand stuff so that they made better decisions when they go and buy bikes. And ultimately, we just wanted people to go out and buy a bike and get fit
Yeah.
and get out and enjoy themselves. And if they can do that with their other half, then fantastic.
Yeah.
Um, and when we did that, we made a call to do that using the Ultra build as the the kind of vehicle to talk about stuff. And yes, it happens that we kind of chose a bike that was probably as much money as you can spend on a bike.
Mm.
But interestingly, when I get press cars from someone like Audi or BMW, they've always got every single option on them and everything, so that you can actually talk about everything.
Yes.
It's easy to work a top spec bike and work
Yeah.
backwards and talk about stuff in the lower
Yeah.
budgets than it is to work on a budget bike and work the other
Yeah.
way. And that's why we chose the Ultra to do Cycle Sunday, and the Trek. To be quite frank, I wanted to buy an e-bike. I wanted a carbon fiber framed e-bike because I like carbon fiber, and I know that sounds really snobby. I could have probably spent a lot less had I bought a Trek Rail 7. Probably is that with I'd have better components and an alloy frame, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. See, are you impressed? I know the nomenclature of Trek
I'm
Rail.
just blown away.
So I could have done that, right? But I didn't want to do that. I wanted a carbon fiber frame,
Yeah.
and I could have spent. I'm being funny, people, but if you're bulking at £5,000, had I bought a Trek Rail 9.9,
Yeah.
it's like over 10
That's
grand.
12.
12. There
Yeah.
you go.
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
so it may well be 5 grand, but it's still less than half the price of the top spec
Yeah.
rail.
But the
So
flip side of that is that Tracy's bike is the entry level to Trek's
Ooh,
mountain bike series. So,
yeah,
so Tracy's Powerfly Sport 4, which has got a smaller battery, same engines, but has got a smaller battery, no rear suspension, because Tracy didn't want that. She effectively wanted a bike that was really good to ride on backcountry roads and on the sort of cycle paths and cycle tracks in your area, and that was little over £3,000. Now
yeah.
that's still a lot of money, but it's not a lot of money for the spec that's on that bike.
And as I said to someone in the comments, the battery's £1,000.
Correct.
So put that into
Yeah.
perspective. So put the battery to, and it's the same with a car. Actually, it's funny with vintage voltage. I often get people asking, "Well, how much are the conversions on vintage voltage?" And they're normally, for a Tesla motor and battery pack, it's like 60 or 70,000
Yeah.
pounds. But the battery pack and motor are probably a good £25,000 of that.
Yes.
And it's the same with an e-bike. If you just took the motor and the battery out of the
Yeah.
equation,
Yeah.
that's, I don't know what the motor would be. Was it 500 quid
No,
maybe?
more, yeah, about 650. So
Yeah. So there
650
you
quid.
go.
Then you've got the controller. Then you've got all the ancillaries. You've then got the manufacturing of the frame. You've then got all of the bits and pieces that get wrapped around the motor to be able to eject it and fit it quickly into the bike. You know,
Actually, when you break it
yeah.
down, you look at it and go,
How are they building it
bargain.
for that price? Really?
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I do. So anyway, right. Should we take a deep
Yes.
breath? Should we move
Yes.
on? Hopefully that helps. And I'm not having a go at the guys who made the comments
Not
about that.
at
I
all.
just wanted to kind of talk about it because I think it's a really valid
Yeah.
point. Don't get me wrong. There's not many people who can go out and spend that kind of money on a
Yeah.
bike. But if you think about it and it's your passion, it's what you like to do, then that's fine. I know people who love photography and they'll think nothing of going out and spending £4,000 on a lens for a
No.
camera.
No.
So or
Yeah.
more. So it's the same. It's any sport or any pastime. Fishing, I'm not into angling, but I know you can spend a lot of money on like rods and reels and all that kind of
Well,
stuff.
look,
Anyway,
right,
let's move on.
just look at this. So you're talking. How much is your microphone?
It was about £500.
No, it wasn't. For your microphone there. Oh, that was
Yeah,
about 500
yeah,
quid. Right.
yeah. With the
Oh,
shield,
right.
and I bought it all. So it's got like might have been four, but it's got
Yeah.
like a reflective shield stand and all
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. It's quite expensive microphone
Absolutely. Well, you can buy a microphone for 30 quid. So why have you spent that amount of money?
because it sounds really
Yeah,
good.
because we're trying to do a professional. And I'm not saying that you are a professional cyclist, but we're moving into higher levels of quality. And
Yeah,
if
yeah,
you
yeah.
look at
I've
the
got a
computer that, you know, you see the videos going up onto YouTube that Peter's created. Do you think he's done that with a 300 quid laptop? No, you can't, because it
no.
needs to have a graphics card and it needs to have a processor that's going to work with editing software, which is massively power hungry. So
Yeah,
it's just an
yeah,
appropriate product at an appropriate price for what we want to achieve.
yeah. I agree.
Yes.
So let's just this is quite nice. We've got a third, a third, and a third in terms of our hour time
Wicked.
split. So I thought we'd just have a bit of a chat about, because we've kind of talked a lot about modification to bikes in the last
Yep.
podcast, and obviously we on the rail we've done quite a few things. So we thought we might just talk about some modifications that don't cost the earth but are sensible things to think about, and we might just briefly try and do that across different genres of
Yep.
bikes maybe. Can I start by saying
Yes.
something and see if I'm on the
Yes.
right track? Irrespective of the style of bike, whether it's a hybrid or a road bike or a mountain bike, whatever, would it be safe to say that wheels and tires are always a kind of good place to start for maximum impact, if you like, bang for buck, or would you start somewhere different for that?
No, I would probably, I'll definitely say tyres. Tyres is a
Yeah,
big thing. So when it comes to things like a hybrid bike, well, no, yeah, no, let's keep with that, wheels and tyres, because when
because isn't that often? We were just talking about how much stuff there is to
yeah,
make on a bike, and often the compromise the manufacturer will give is they'll kind of, I won't say run out of money for the budget, but the wheel and tire set will be the one that probably costs the
yeah,
least,
usually,
or they spend the least money on,
usually,
because a wheel's a wheel, right? It's round and it's got a black
yeah,
tire on it, and
yeah,
it's
and it's
fine.
also very personal as well. So yeah,
Mm.
on a hybrid bike, for example, you would, what's your motivation with a hybrid bike? A hybrid bike usually is sort of a commuter. It bombs up and down curbs. It goes down cycle paths and cycle tracks. It goes over cobbles. It gets abused. So on a hybrid bike, you'd probably be looking. Your motivation will be something that's got a slightly higher spoke count. Your motivation will be a slightly tougher rim. Your motivation will be potentially better quality bearings that cope with winter riding conditions. Your motivation might be using brass spoke nipples as opposed to alloy spoke nipples that don't then corrode and crack. And there's now worse than cracked nipples in the winter, guys. Um, so it's one of those that your motivation, your focus is not.
I've, I've, I just don't want a cracked
You
brass
don't.
nipple.
Well, you won't get a cracked brass nipple. It's your cracked alloy nipples that's your big problems.
Oh,
Your
my
alloy
alloy
nipples.
nipples.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, good. Oh, right, all
So
right.
so that's your motivation with a hybrid, is that actually if you were going to upgrade the wheel system, you might want to get something that's slightly more robust and a little bit better for for that urban environment. And then you might choose to have a tire that's slightly more cut resistant against, the glass from when you're riding outside in the gutters of pubs and that sort of stuff, thorns off hedgerows and that sort of thing. So you might be looking for a higher spec tire that's a little bit more supple, but also has got a little bit more punch protection. Your motivation on a mountain bike could be, you might be looking at, maybe carbon fiber, but again, you're looking for something that's tough without massively increasing the weight. You're now looking at something that's got a good tubeless system. You're looking at a tire that's got a lot of a really supple carcass with a nice grippy tread. On a road bike, you're now focusing more towards weight, aerodynamics, and very supple tires. So yeah, your motivation might be slightly different as to what your priority in the modification is, but I would totally agree with you that any modification that you make to the wheel and tire package, appropriate for the type of bike you're modifying, is definitely money well spent.
Yeah, I mean, I hark back, and we've talked about this a few times. When I upgraded the wheels on my Giant, the wheels I bought from a friend. Actually, he'd had them for about 18 months, 2 years, I think, and ran them. And I knew that they were very expensive when he bought them. And I remember I paid £500 for the wheel set
Yeah,
and they came with tires. And I paid £1,000 for my bike. So I'm thinking, oh, hold on a minute, these wheels are like half the price of the bike, and that's mates rates.
yeah,
And you knew they were more expensive than the whole bike. And I tell you what, I put them on and I went for the first ride, and I'm like, what have I done to this bike?
yeah,
It was just unreal, unreal.
yeah,
Rolling resistance, power through the rear wheel because the spokes were a better pattern and more optimized, less, much stiffer and all that kind of stuff. And it was like, wow, this is amazing.
mm,
So I guess with that, I mean, I'm reading through the lines here, but I kind of understood that a little bit. But there's a one of the things, and I think I don't know whether we'll have time to do it today, but one of the requests that we've had come in is to do some stuff just on basic, if you like, cycling vocabulary
yeah,
and cycling terminology.
yeah,
And I think we'll either do that as videos in season 3,
yes,
or we'll talk about it in a podcast.
yeah,
But much of the things that you just talked about when it came to wheels and tires, I'm thinking, oh, yeah, okay, that makes sense. but someone new to cycling or who aren't sure might not. So the best advice probably is go and talk to your local bike
Yep.
shop and just say, look, I've got this bike. This is what I'm using it for. Are there any ways that I can improve how it rides, or the living with capability, if you like.
Yep.
Um,
Yeah, because it's also down to locality as well, and that's where talking to your local bike shop's absolutely ideal. I mean, it was helpful. I could advise you on wheels and tire packages because when I delivered the bike, Tracy's bike down to you, we
yeah,
went for a walk, went for a
yeah,
bit of a dog walk, and I sampled the terrain that you were going to be riding over most of the time. So
yeah,
and we had a conversation about it. I said, Pete, is this normal? Is this the type of terrain that you're going to be riding on most of the time? And it gave me an education as to what is going to be ideal in terms of wheel and tire packages for you. But don't
yeah,
forget your local bike shops got that information. Sometimes if I mean,
yeah,
yeah, we sell stuff online, and if you know what you're looking for, absolutely brilliant. But I think Pete's point there is really important. If you don't know what you're looking for, go and get a relationship with your local bike shop and really pick their brains and always ask the person you're speaking to, do you ride locally? What do you ride? Because don't forget there's some people in bike shops that the person that you're speaking to might specialize in road cycling and you might be a mountain biker. So never worry about saying to somebody in a bike shop, look, do you ride mountain bikes locally? And if somebody says, no, I'm more of a roadie, don't chastise that person. He's a road cyclist. Just say, have you? I really like some advice on some upgrades and some stuff, but have you got a mountain biker in the shop that I can speak to?
yeah,
And if the guy's got good humility, he should say, "Oh yeah, Gareth, he flipping rides the local trails around here.
yeah.
I'll go and grab him, and he will just nerd out on the best tire that we sell for that type of riding for you."
Mate, I'll give you an example. So when I moved into the barn where I am now, and I was a roadie. I was doing my road cycling, and I had my Giant, and I hadn't had a mountain bike for a while, and I moved in, went for a walk out the back, and went, oh my god, the mountain biking around here is just insane. So I went and bought a full suspension specialized mountain
Yeah,
bike. And I went out for a couple of rides, and I think we've talked about this as well. The chalk ground around here is particularly horrible and slippy when it's wet. So I went into my bike shop and I just went, the bike you sold me a couple of weeks ago, the tires just I need different tires. And he did exactly what you just said. He went, go and speak to so and so over there. So when I went, I've got this. This is the bike I've got. I need some tires. He went, yeah, you do, right, okay. And he went over and nerded me out on tires, and actually to the point where he recommended a different tread block
yeah,
pattern on the rear compared to the
yeah,
front. And I was like, oh, okay, whatever.
yeah,
So anyway, and then I went out on the bike and it was
yeah.
amazing.
Just transformed it.
So
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, because he knew what he was
yeah,
talking about. So that I mean, the other comment I had one today about, bloody advertising, and all you're doing is advertising Criterium Cycles. Well, yeah, there is an element of that in this series for sure, but actually, and you'd probably be the first to. We just want people to go and talk to the local bike shop. Yeah, if the local bike shop, if you're in Edinburgh,
yeah,
great, go and talk to Paul in Criterium Cycles. But otherwise, we want is people get out on your bikes and enjoy your
yeah,
bikes, and actually modifications to a bike can just help you enjoy it a bit
yeah,
more.
yeah. And I think that, look, always remember, Peter is trying to earn a living by producing content and putting it out online for you. I'm trying
Yeah,
to earn a living by selling stuff. But all the way through this whole process, we feel we've actually built a really nice community,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
And ultimately, you'll have never heard us badmouth another manufacturer.
Nope.
When Pete goes, "Oh, I went to a bike shop and I bought a Specialized," or when he refers to his Giant, or when he refers to his Mavic wheels, You don't
Yeah.
hear me going, "Oh, we better edit that out," because we're not a specialized dealer, I'm afraid. So I'm afraid that's
He does that
yeah,
after we finish the
yeah,
podcast.
that's against our brand values and all of that. No, absolutely not. We talk about it. So
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
it's one of those things. You join you join this to basically hear two blokes chat about the passion. If you then come to us and you buy stuff from us, welcome to the family. Brilliant.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, yeah. No, absolutely. Hey, here's
Yes.
one. So, a next modification, and I reckon this is a modification that people do badly a lot. Right?
Right.
They go and buy a bike, and I'm saying this is probably more hybrid or road bike, but I think it could probably be the case for a mountain bike as well. And they go, "Oh, this saddle's like sitting on a razor blade. I'm going to go and buy a big fat ass saddle or a gel pad."
Yeah.
Do you think that happens a lot?
Too many times.
People out there, saddles are anatomically designed for your bum. The fact that they're not necessarily comfortable when you first sit on it isn't to do with the saddle, it's to do with the fact your bum needs to get used to sitting on the saddle. Once it is, they're comfy. The end.
Yeah. Well, they're less uncomfy. So
Yeah, because you can never be comfortable on a
well, you
bike.
can't be comfortable doing sport, right? And cycling is a sport. All you can physically do is try and push misery as far down the road as possible. That's all we can ever try and advise folk. So always remember that a saddle, and I know we've said this a few times, a saddle is effectively a support for your pelvis. It's for your ischial tuberosity, which is your sit bone, and your pubic rami, which is the frontal bones. And yes, you can go and get saddles that are better for your pelvic shape, better for your sit bone width compared to other saddles. Absolutely 100%. But ultimately, if you don't have the miles in your backside, getting used to being on the bike, that's your number one. Just ride more and ride more consistently. But also, what one of the biggest mistakes, and whenever somebody's picking up a brand new bike and they might not have been riding for a number of years, one of the first things that we say to folk is, don't go and do 30 miles, right? 30 miles in a
No.
car, you feel it. So 30 miles when you sat on a saddle while you're powering the bike is a long way. Just go and do 20 minutes. Put the bike away
Yeah.
and go, I really enjoyed that. I want to go and do it again tomorrow. Then go and do another 20 minutes. So I'd rather somebody
Mm.
do 20 minutes 3 times a week than one 30-mile ride and never want to get back on the bike again. So always
Yeah.
remember, it takes a while to get back used to it. But your comfort comes from good quality bib shorts, good quality padded shorts. Also, make sure that you never wear underwear. And I know there are a few sort of cycling manufactured underwear now to work with
Mm.
this. But as a general rule, the pad of your cycle short goes straight next to your skin. So that's another thing. But yeah, exactly as Peter says, just go and ride your bike. Allow your body to adapt to it, and always remember your body
Yeah.
will continually adapt over the time that you own it. You know, some years it might feel comfortable, some years it might feel less comfortable. It could just be
Yeah.
down to the either overtraining, undertraining, or doing different sport. So much goes on.
Yeah. And again, speak to your local
Yeah,
bike shop, because I'm going to. So when we did the Ultra, I had a few comments about the saddle choice on the Ultra. They were like, "Oh, why haven't you got a Physic?" Or because there are saddles that you can get with Celeste colors and all that kind of stuff, and they look amazing. And actually, the the um the what it looks like person inside of me went, "Oh, that would look
yeah,
really cool." And you put a Bontrager saddle on
yep,
the Ultra, and actually at first I went, "Oh, okay." Anyway, can I just say something? That and the saddle that's also the Bontrager saddle that's on my
yep,
Arcadex, they are so
yep,
comfortable. They're just
yep.
ace. So, one of the things with any modification is look outside I don't know, the manufacturer that you would
Yeah,
think, and consider other options. Paul put those two saddles on those bikes through experience because he knew what was a good saddle and what was, and they don't get me wrong, they're expensive saddles, but they're my God, they're good. I mean, the one on I've only done 12 miles on my Ultra, so I can't really say, but the one on the
yeah,
Arcadex, I could sit on that
yeah,
all day. It's really,
yes,
really good. It fits me
yeah,
perfectly. It still looks like a razor blade,
yeah,
by the way, but it fits me
yeah. It's
perfectly.
like sitting on a fence post.
Yeah, but no. So I think saddles are interesting because I've got a friend of mine who, wasn't getting on with saddle. Went and bought one of those massive gel pads and things, and I'm like, no, 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 no,
No,
no,
no.
no.
The gel pads are actually just like putting a sticking plaster on a shark bite, right? Well, it, it's going to hold the wound closed for a while, but ultimately it's not fixing the problem. So just that would be my first advice is again there'll be a ton of comments. Oh, I bought a gel pad from Aldi and it's the best thing ever. Fine, no problem. Well done, great. But
Yeah, yeah,
ultimately, if you're going to be riding reasonable distances, and actually those gel pads, if all you're doing is going from your house to the local shops or down to the station or something, and you just want to be
yeah,
wearing your suit trousers, well, on a cheapy hybrid bike, well, actually,
yep,
there's probably a lot to be said for that. But if you are wanting to do 15, 20, 30, 40, 50, 100 miles on a bike, then you need to be getting into higher quality bikes, higher quality saddles, higher quality clothing, and better advice on how to train for those types of miles. So it's just
yeah,
appropriate products and appropriate spend for the job that you want it to do. It's what it all
yeah.
comes down to, isn't it?
So that's a great segue into our final 20 minutes, which is to kind of look back at the year because I think that's all we've said all year is appropriate for whatever you want to use the bike for. And
Yeah.
it's like if you could distill down everything we've done this year into one sentence, that's probably it. To be honest,
That and fancy a glass of wine, Pete.
yeah, yeah, or a really strong. This is really. I'm not so sure I'm enjoying it. It's a bit strong for me. I like a
Yeah.
session ale. I like a session ale where you can drink like 5 pints of it and not fall over.
Oh, dude, I couldn't drink that amount of water. 5 pints?
Yeah,
Really?
yeah,
Oh, no.
yeah. It can be worse than that.
Really? No. Seriously, I couldn't consume that amount of water.
Maybe there's something wrong with me. I don't know. I don't
It's
know.
those long legs.
Me and my mate Darren went to Robbie Williams at Nebworth many, many, many moons ago because Darren lived near Nebworth, and we walked to Nebworth, and because it was a nice day, we went via a few pubs. I think we went past 4 pubs on the way and had a pint in each pub.
Okay.
So we'd had 4 pints by the time we got there. And then when we got to Nebworth, you had to buy beer tokens on the gate.
Right.
So all of the bars and all the kind of, the food outlets, they took beer tokens. You paid on the gate. So we bought 10 beer tokens each.
Each?
Each. Yeah, and we drank them by 8 o'clock. So we had to go and buy some more.
Do you not just get on the gate and when they said, would you like to buy some beer tokens? You and Dan just went, yes, all of them.
Say again. You went a bit.
Yes, all of them.
Yeah. Anyway, before anyone thinks I'm a complete, alco,
Mm.
so let's just kind of summarize because this is the last podcast of the year.
Yep.
I wanted to look back on what's been just an amazing year, and I'm gonna get all mushy now. But the
Oh,
best thing to have come out of this year is I've got a new mate, and
oh,
and we we kind of exchanged Paul and I exchanged messages and stuff, and I think we said it probably at the beginning. The way we kind of first got to know each other, you sent me a message before the COVID-19 series about Criterium Cycles, and I said, "Look, thanks, but no thanks. Edinburgh's a long way away, and it was just really challenging." And then you did a peddler's rides in the COVID-19 thing with your old bus, with your old
Yep.
van. And then back end of last year, you sent me a message and we started talking and it just was like, do you know what? It sounds like a really exciting, really interesting, different thing. And for me as a car channel, it was quite challenging because bikes and cars, the YouTube algorithm doesn't necessarily understand that. But the sad thing about that is the audience does.
Yes.
I've got lots and lots of people who follow me who love cars, love bikes, and love watches. That seems to
Yep.
be a common thread, basically. So we put together some crazy plans at the back end of last year, and they basically included me coming up to Edinburgh in January. So we were right in the middle of a lot of restrictions. It was very difficult for me to get to Edinburgh. I had to kind of jump through lots of hoops, and we had to do lots of risk assessments and all that kind of thing. And I came up to your old shop,
Yep.
and got measured for the bike, and we filmed season one of Cycle Sunday, and that was a full on couple of days of filming
Yep.
and editing, and we kind of started to just strike a friendship, and then the podcast really came out of each of those videos had so much content we wanted to talk about, we just couldn't fit it in the video. So we said, why don't we do a podcast? And then we thought, well, how do you do a podcast? So remember we met one of your friends, we met for a drink, and she
Yep.
kind of talked us through, she was a podcaster and talked us through, gave us some tips about the platform to use and how to publish it.
Yep.
And we went off and kind of learned about all of that, and then
Yep.
we decided we'd do a podcast. And I think that the downside or the sad thing for me this year is I don't think the podcast has got the kind of listenership and in terms of numbers as we'd hoped. But those people who do listen are very loyal and listen every week and always comment,
Yep.
and it's most appreciated.
Yep.
But it's been a brilliant thing to meet up every week. Sometimes we haven't managed to do it because we've been too busy.
Yeah.
It's normally me.
Yeah, we're gonna get more organised about that for next year.
Yeah, we want to kind of take things to a bit to the next level next year. So, but it is to pencil in. I mean, I have to say that my favourite podcast of the year is the one with the ice cubes where we were physically together.
I know, it was brilliant. It
It was ace. It was so good.
Yeah, yeah. So,
So
do you know what? I am incredibly touched because you're right. It's been a great collaboration, and it's been, two folk who share an incredible passion for both cars and bikes, and generally anything on wheels, aren't we? I mean, it doesn't matter whether it's a train, a plane, a car, a bike, whether it's got a motor, whether you're piloting
engineering,
yourself.
really.
Engineering. Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
indeed. Yeah. We both share so much in common. But I think the key thing is that you're right. I've just got somebody who I am so fond of and just absolutely, love Tracy and, Rosie get on. And yeah,
Do you know the one thing we need to bloody sort out next year?
yeah,
The girls haven't met each other yet.
I know they've
It's not good enough.
no, they've spoken so many times, and the amount of times when maybe I'm down with Peter, and the text that I
Don't-
get from Rosie, sort of like,
Yeah.
I really wish I was there.
Don't worry. There's something quite big happening next year that will mean the girls get together.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mm. Oh, yes.
Yes, I have a rather big numbered birthday next year. So I'm sure there's bound to be some excuse for us to get together while we celebrate that.
Definitely.
But yeah, no, the girls haven't met each other, and I know they get on like a house on fire. So But no, so for me that's been a big part of this year. The growing the community of and it's funny because I called all my followers peddlers because the terminology of someone who can really drive a car well is they're a good peddler.
Yeah,
And I know when I asked my audience, it wasn't me that came up with that. My followers came up with it as a suggestion, and but it works so well with cyclists as well.
it does.
So it's a complete accident.
It does.
So we got a great community, and what I found really humbling is so many of you have got in touch with Paul and the bike shop, and asked advice, bought bikes, bought bits, whatever it might be,
Yeah,
and that's been phenomenal.
yeah. We are so as a business, we are so grateful for all of the business that this community has put our way.
Yeah,
It's really great, and what's even more pleasing is the continuation of that relationship, and we constantly get messages from folk with their new bikes, and oh, we've been here. So again, that friendship, and it's just wonderful. Yeah,
yeah.
I'm going to
I
start
get
getting
I
a bit
get some great.
emotional now.
I get lots of messages of photos of bikes and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's been great, and then I guess the stars of the show for me, and I know Paul's kind of got a bit of this as well, but the bikes are the stars of the show.
Yeah,
So the Ultra XR4, which was the whole purpose of the, and I guess it's probably a good time to say this year's plans didn't go to plan at all.
no,
So I think we've mentioned this before, but the original plans were, we got fitted and ordered all the bits for the bike in January, February. We should have had those bits March.
yeah,
I should have come back up to the shop in late March, early April, probably build the bike, and then we'd got invites to go out to Italy to have a look at Bianchi's factory and Campag's factory, and we were going to do Stelvio Pass and all kinds of things, and all of that got canned because we didn't get the bits to build the bike until late September.
yeah,
So, but we've now got the bike. So one of the things that next year, and we talk a bit about this in tonight's video, this is not the end of Cycle Sunday, and it's quite funny. I don't know, when we first started it as a project, we never really had an end date or an end position, if you like. It's just kind of evolved, and the
yeah,
more we do stuff together, and haven't even mentioned how much I enjoy spending time with Richard, and
yeah,
I haven't met Madeline, Richard's wife, and we kind of want to do more. So next year we haven't got any firm plans in place yet because we're still kind of working on things, but definitely we want to do more riding together. Well, actually, can I rephrase that? I want to actually go out on a bike ride with Paul, my mate, because we've not done that yet. Um,
and I need to ride a bike.
I know I'd really like Paul to give me some tuition on mountain biking because he's a really handy mountain biker and I'm not. Um, I'd love to. I think that would make some great content. I want to learn to do jumps and various bits and bobs.
Mm,
There's some road cycling to do. I think I should take you to do Mont Ventoux.
that'd be nice. It's actually one of the only cols that I've not done, and I
I
I think
I know an awesome 5-star hotel at the foot of Mont Ventoux.
well that's very fascinating, but I'm more of a sort of Airbnb budget, to be honest.
Well, but we'll educate you on that one.
Okay,
It's nice. It's got it's mate. It's the best, one of the best hotels I know.
but I think that
Um,
that would actually make quite an interesting thing, because how many years is it since you've done that Von2 challenge?
when did I do Ventoux? 2019, I think.
Okay, so I did the Marmot in 2019, and you did the um,
Three times up.
3 times up
The
Von2.
Les Sangles du Mont Ventoux.
Okay, so I'm now incredibly unfit and fat compared to what I
Yeah,
was back in 2019. And I know you're not in the same
so
shape,
am I.
albeit you've not let yourself go as much as I have. Well done, you. But I think that might actually be quite an interesting thing to have as a goal,
Yep.
which will get us focused. Go through, not in massive detail or nerdiness, but a sort of road to getting fit again to do it.
Yep.
Then, obviously, the bike that you did your challenge on last time was your Giant.
No, the Bon Vent 2 I did on the Specialized.
On your Specialized, beg your pardon. So you did that on the Venge. So how does the new bike...
Oh, the old I can't.
Yeah.
I just want to do Von 2 on the Ultra because it's going to fly
Yeah.
up there.
So what are the... I mean, obviously, you've got things like atmospheric conditions. You've got... when I say that, that sounded... is it... What's the wind and what's the rain like that particular day? No more complicated than that. So you've got little bits of differences, but what difference does 2-3 years make to your riding, and
Yep.
what difference does the bike make, and also what difference does the company make? I know you had good friends and good
Dan.
people then
Yeah,
as well.
Dan did it last
Yeah.
time with us. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the other thing, next year. So I collect coal markers. When you ride in France, you can buy the little white and yellow markers at the side of the road. So I collect any coal I've ever bagged. I've got a little marker for those, and I need to do outdoors next year in a big
Do
way.
you?
Yeah, I don't know why. There's loads. There's Alpe d'Huez and Col de Glibier, and there's quite a lot of coals on my list.
I'll do Glibier with you, but I'm not doing Alpe d'Huez again.
I just want to do it just to get the market.
Oh,
And
we'll do
then
it in
there's
the car.
also there's a little climb. It's only about 3 kilometers long called Les Lacettes de Montvernier,
Right.
and that I mean that looks awesome. So I'm going to bag some coals
Yeah.
next year if it kills me, because the Ultra needs to bag some coals.
Yeah.
So we've got lots of plans for next year. I can't. Oh no, I was about to say I can't see myself buying a bike next year, but actually I am probably going to buy a bike next year.
Are you?
Paul won't like this.
What?
So I'm going to do the Royka historic ride from Goodwood next year,
Okay.
and that means I need to buy a pre-1980 bike.
Or I could speak to Bianchi and see if they've got any of the Eroica recreations.
Ooh,
So, do you know about that bike?
no.
Oh, right, okay. So,
Oh no! Oh no! What have
so
you
the
done?
way the Eroica, the Eroica, there's flipping out. How many are there? About sort of 4 or 5 around the world.
Yeah. So the again, we've not talked. I think we do a podcast on
Yeah.
this, but it will be based from Goodwood from next year.
Brilliant. But basically, you have to ride a bike that was from 1985 or
Yeah.
earlier.
Yeah.
But in 2010, maybe 2013 or so, or maybe a bit like... Anyway, between 2010 2015, somewhere in that region, because Bianchi are the headline sponsors of the Eroica, they created a brand new bike, but got Campag to make brand new period drivetrains. And effectively, it is a brand new bike built in period, and it's certified to ride in the Eroica.
Oh no! What have you just done
Yeah.
for me?
And I'm pretty sure they are all completely sold out now, and they've stopped making them. But I will send an email to... in fact, I'll give them a shout out because this will help. I will send an email to Andrew Griffin, who is the country manager for Bianchi, and just ask, do they have...
We've done loads. We've done
Yeah.
loads of awareness for Bianchi this
Yeah.
year. Come on,
Yeah,
Andrew.
yeah, yeah.
62 centimeter frame size. So
61, yeah.
61. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, so that's going to be, and there's quite a few things Goodwood cycling happening next year. So, so we've got. I mean, we're coming to the end of our time now, but although this is the last podcast of the season 2, and it was the last episode tonight of season 2, we've got so much more to come. So many things we want to do, and there's stuff we can't talk to you about right now, which is even more exciting. That transcends just the podcast and the Cycle Sunday series. So we've got loads coming. So I'm going to kind of start drawing that one to a close, guys. I hope you've enjoyed this year. I'm going to kind of wrap up season 1 and season 2. We will be back in the new year. We're going to take a few weeks off because of Christmas, and we're actually going to spend some time with our lovely wives.
Yeah.
I bet is the bike shop. What are you closing down at all at Christmas, or what's the
Christmas Day, Boxing Day, and New Year's Day?
Oh wow, that's that it. But go and spend your Christmas money at Criterium Cycles, people. But yes, so we will be back in the new year. So stay tuned. And we've got so many plans. I think what we'll probably do is we'll start the podcast up first, because that's a relatively simple and straightforward to kind of put together, and we've always got stuff to talk about. And then we'll let you know as soon as we know more about season 3 of the videos and stuff, and how that's going to work, because it might work in different ways next year. We don't know. We'll let you know, but the podcast will be back early in 2022.
Early in 2022, and I think it's really important to say, because I constantly get messages, Mr. Hunter, you know who you are. I have not, and Peter has not forgotten the rider letters. So in fact, I think we should say that we will start next year with the rider letters. So any other stories that you guys have got out there for, how did you get into cycling? What were your most memorable trips? How has cycling touched your lives? All of those sorts of things. Did you meet your significant other through a cycling holiday or something like that? Anybody who's got any stories that's sort of related to cycling, please just either email Peter directly, and we can put in the YouTube description, can't we? And
it should be in there anyway. But it's just put a comment in the video, or find me on Instagram, direct message me on Instagram, or direct message Criterium Cycles,
all that stuff, and we'll do that, and we'll also do sort of beginners guides and all of that sort of stuff as well.
Yeah, defo. But yes, guys, all I want to say is thank you for being awesome support and tuning in every week. And we couldn't do it without you. So thank you very, very much. I hope you've enjoyed the whole journey of Cycle Sunday this year. It has been a proper wild ride, and there is much more to come. Paul, I love you, man, and I'll speak to you before Christmas. But for everybody out there, have a wonderful Christmas. All the very, very best for New Year. Stay safe, and we will see you in the new year. But for now, I've been Pete Greaves.
And I've been Paul Bowker. Merry Christmas, everybody.
Merry Christmas. Ho, ho, ho. Merry Christmas, guys. See you in 2022.